Una vida llena de propósito y bienestar. Una vida donde cada día te sientas más conectado contigo mismo y con el mundo que te rodea. Hola, somos la comunidad Despierta y te damos la bienvenida a Despierta.online, tu nuevo compañero en el camino del crecimiento personal. Aquí encontrarás todo lo que necesitas para iniciar tu viaje hacia una vida más plena y significativa. Despierta.online es un espacio lleno de herramientas para ayudarte a vivir una vida más plena y alcanzar tu máximo potencial. Desde meditaciones guiadas hasta cursos de desarrollo personal, tenemos algo para todos. Te presento a Zen, tu guía personal. Zen es una inteligencia artificial diseñada para acompañarte en tu viaje de autodescubrimiento. Con Zen, nunca estarás solo en tu camino hacia el bienestar. Disfruta de nuestro canal de televisión en vivo, con contenido inspirador y entretenido. Desde charlas motivacionales hasta clases de yoga en vivo, siempre habrá algo que te inspire y te ayude a crecer. Explora terapias como la armonización frecuencial integral y los registros akáshicos. Estas terapias te ayudarán a equilibrar tu energía y a conectar con tu ser interior de una manera profunda y significativa. Regístrate en Despierta.online y empieza tu transformación hoy mismo. No hay mejor momento que ahora para comenzar tu viaje hacia el bienestar. Gracias por escuchar, te esperamos en Despierta.online. Únete a nuestra comunidad y comienza tu transformación hoy. Hasta pronto.
Hola, hola a todos y a todas. Hoy es jueves 29 de agosto. Tenemos un programa súper interesante y va a ser en inglés, así que las personas que no hablen inglés pueden irse a YouTube y ahí está siendo traducido en tiempo real. Y cualquier duda que tengan en español la pueden poner y yo la traduzco y la pongo en inglés. Así que le vamos a dar la bienvenida a nuestro invitado el día de hoy. Se llama Torkom, Jai. So, hi Torkom, welcome to Despierta, and it's a pleasure to have you here. How are you?
Hi, Miguel. Thank you so much for having me, and it's a pleasure to be here with you today to talk about all these amazing concepts that we're both involved with.
Yep. Well, it's a custom here in Despierta that the guest tells us about whom he is and why is he doing this? Why are you up with this kind of therapy, whatever you're doing? Please.
Well, thank you to everyone for tuning in and all the listeners and for giving me an opportunity to share about myself and my work. My name is Torkom. I'm from Los Angeles, and I've been doing electronic music longer than anything else in my life. I started at around 16 after playing guitar for a few years, and at that age we're going through so much development and transformation, and at that time, there was a lot of medication and ADHD and all these illnesses or ailments that they were prescribing these children, and I was one of them, so because I guess I was not paying attention very well in school or for whatever reason. So I spent my mind, more in these creative spaces and imaginative spaces, and so music really helped me find myself through that period of my life. It helped me express myself. It helped me move energy. And so honestly, it started just from a organic, natural playfulness with the art of music, which says a lot about the power of music to transform. And when by the time I was 18, I had really started to master my synthesizer and perform for my brother and his friends and my friends. I would just tell them, hey guys, close your eyes, lay back, and I'm going to play some things. And an hour, 2 hours would go by. So I feel like by the time I was 20, I had learned a lot about live impromptu creativity and using these synthesizers, and I was really comfortable in that and performing for people. Just to speed the story along, I worked for 3 years as an basically like an after school coach for a music program for 6 middle schools, so 10, 11, 12, 13-year-olds. And every day after school, 3 to 6 p.m., they would come to my program, and I would teach them how to make electronic music, how to make beats, how to use a synthesizer, how to layer their music. So that, reinforced even more so my own need to know what I was teaching and know what I was talking about. But also I was very passionate about it, so it came naturally. Everything really changed for me at about 23 when I left Los Angeles to go to Iowa, the middle of the country. And it's all cornfields, but there's a meditation university founded by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi of the Beatles. He brought meditation and transcendental meditation to the West, was one of the early people. And so I went to study at this school, and when I got there, it was almost like X-Men Academy or Hogwarts or something, because everybody was tapped in, everyone was a wizard, everyone meditated, and I was in an environment where there was a lot of emphasis on consciousness and not working very hard, instead tapping into a meditative space, being very rested, and then having all the pieces come together naturally. So when I first heard the way these people were talking, I said, this sounds crazy. I don't understand. You guys keep talking about the flow. But after a few months, or even sooner, I started to understand for myself what that state of being was, because I was in an environment that had many, many, many people who believed in and practiced the same things, which is basically 20-minute meditation 2 times a day, vegetarian lifestyle, regular yoga, breath work. And so it creates a collective consciousness. I lived there for about 2 years, and my music started to change, because as I'm meditating, I'm changing the way I turn the knobs more slowly, more methodically. And I was learning about, this is back in 2011, I learned about 432 hertz and solfeggio stuff. So I said, wow, I could actually plug in these frequencies and work with these frequencies to do more than just perform music. I can actually do something that's like medical, esoteric, therapeutic, something that is this science hasn't even caught up, the medical hasn't even caught up. This is amazing. So I went really deep. I read all the books I could. I started a weekly sound healing group where every Sunday people would come and I would perform live for 1 hour. And I lived it, breathed it. I did it. And it started for me in 2012 was when I started Quantum Harmonics, January 1st. And for 6 months, I did it every Sunday for about 40 people. And so that was the beginning of my story with this. And that was where I started to get downloads and receive like visions on my purpose and what I would do with this information that was coming through, and what it had the power to do for the world. And it's been now 12, 13 years. I've just been on the journey. I've brought my music to festivals, conferences, expos, Colombia, New York, Canada. I've been to 5 states. I've lectured on the topic. I've been in hospitals with ER staff. I've been with veterans, cancer patients, children, ADHD, old cancer patient who's near end of life. Many, many different groups of people I've had the pleasure of working with, and to directly learn from those experiences, how the sound can help, what it's doing, what it's able to do. And of course, all the science now catching up. So it's a little bit about my story, Miguel.
It sounds really amazing, and I am really interested because this is something that I do on a daily basis, and I love it. And I am very happy to have you here and to learn lots of things from which you can share with us. So please tell us about quantum harmonics a bit.
Quantum harmonics is a truly one-of-a-kind approach, ecosystem. I say it's a philosophy. It's almost like a martial art for sound healing and for synthesis. It's a system I've designed using my hardware and little information like specific parameters, the BPM, the tuning, the delay parameters, the types of delays, and then of course the practitioner has to be in a meditative state. So they have to be a meditator. They have to know what that is, because we don't perform quantum harmonics from the mind. We actually have a process of slowly using the tool to get past the mind to where now we're letting nature, it's like your fingertips become intelligence. It becomes the wind, the water, the fire, the earth. And so through this very natural process, I teach people. I don't have any practitioners yet, but I have a few people who've wanted to learn. They first have to learn how to settle the mind and enter a very relaxed state, because we perform from the higher intelligence. We don't perform from the mind. And that's one of the biggest differences, is that much of music is for entertainment or is created either in a studio or in a very mental process where we're clicking and layering and stitching and thinking about it. And for me, I try to get as far removed from thought as possible. So I set up the tools. So when I step in and I'm with a group of people, I can close my eyes, put my hand on the machine, and then I can it's like doing a massage or something. It's just very natural. And so I find that this allows for these emergent qualities to kind of bubble and layer that are happening live. And that's what I've been shown to be what's compelling and interesting, and is what I enjoy most about it. Is I never know. It's like a fortune cookie. I'm slowly putting it together. I don't know what kind of fortune is going to come out or what kind of sound, and it's always a response to the room, so it changes around the room.
Do you have in your presentation, because you have a presentation which you are going to show us, do you have some of your hardware, photographs?
Oh, excuse me, Miguel. I accidentally popped out my headphone. 1 second here. Can you repeat that? Do I have?
Yeah. Do you have any pictures of your hardware, which you're going to show us in the presentation?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. I actually, as I was piecing it together, there was so many things I wanted to put in there, and I was like, I should put a few. It's the last thing I thought about, but I'll get, while we're talking, I'll make sure that we get something so we can demonstrate what that looks like. I could also share screen a video, right? From like a YouTube video or something?
Of course.
Okay, so I can also show what that looks like through video format too.
Perfect.
Would you like me to, you want me to show that now, or?
Let's get on with the presentation, and,
sure.
And later on we'll show the video. I'm happy to do so. I have
Awesome.
to learn some more. So here's your presentation. Please do tell us if anybody has a question. Please do not hesitate to type it in, and we'll present it to Torkom.
And so, Miguel, I put together some slides here, about 17 or so slides. You can feel free to jump in at any time. But what I'm going to present here today is very different from typically what we find online, because what we find online is a lot of copy pasta. We call it copy pasta, where 2006, everyone's getting on the internet, 2005, 6, 7, 8, chakra this, frequency this. And so people start copy paste, and it's hard to pin down. Where did that start? Who made that claim? What's the origins of this? And so for me, I always want to track down and try to get to the core of like, where did that originate from? Because I want to speak to the truth of it. So first thing I'll say about the presentation is a lot of this is my process of not learning and adding, but subtracting and removing. It's about getting more clear about this information and what it's demonstrating, as opposed to having the inverse, where I need to learn more and do more research, and then we'll figure it out, and then it'll make more sense, and then we'll get there, and everyone keeps pushing and adding and adding. And so what meditation has shown me is we have to take a breath and relax. We have to actually ground. And with grounding, you have to get close to the earth. You have to get humble with the soil. You have to, instead of, Tower of Babylon is like a biblical example of becoming the heavens. We have to be the heavens down. So in the same way, my philosophy has been to undo the information and start over. So with that said, origins of humans and music, I figured let's start there. So here's a little cartoon of a flute carved out of a piece of wood, which is a very likely early human instrument. And here is which also, by the way, goes back to Neanderthals, we'll get into. But this is another primitive human depicting him next to a drum, which started around the same time. But believe it or not, the flute predates the drum. The oldest instruments, some of the oldest instruments that we have found from hominids, could be Neanderthals, Cro-Magnons, Homo sapiens, they date back up to 165,000 years, percussive instruments. I'm sure you've seen percussive stones and rocks and boulders all around the world that have a resonant quality that could be struck, that could be strummed, that could be clanked, and they produce a tone. And that's actually interesting because typically rocks and boulders and things, they don't produce a tone. They're atonal versus tonal. And that's the first distinction I want to throw out there is sound could be either tonal sound or atonal sound. A tonal sound has a defined fundamental frequency. Like a string being hit, you have a pitch. You have a defined, very high amplitude fundamental that you perceive. Atonal, like a clap or a thud, it doesn't produce a strong fundamental, therefore it just has equal amplitudes. All the frequencies are kind of equal, and that's how the sound propagates, and you hear it as a thud. So these percussive instruments would have been the earliest instruments moving into, this is a Neanderthal flute, 67,000 or so years ago, carved out of ivory, out of bone.
Wow.
Some of the theories behind why we would have made, why would we make music? Why would we like music? If we go back to this depiction, it's a theory, and it makes most sense actually, is we would have wanted to mimic nature and to be one with nature, so to be one with birds, to sound like birds, and to put holes in a tree branch, and to notice that when we blow into a hole, we sound like a bird. We could call a bird. We could mimic our environment. So this theory of us trying to be at one with our environment is probably why we started to produce these early instruments. When we get to the Ice Age era, we have a mammoth ivory Ice Age flute, about 43,500 years old here. Same deal. Holes carved in it. Clearly they understood the relationship of harmonics and where the holes should be placed. Mm-hmm. And this would be the oldest...
Have you ever heard those being played?
No, I haven't yet, actually. I think some of these are in museums or are not performed out of...
of course. I wouldn't understand, but...
I could only assume. But yeah, it would be amazing, actually, to hear that. Here's the oldest drum. This is a little bit debated, between 30 and 37,000 years. But regardless, it's in the thousands. It's an elephant skin drum. And if you think about the length of time between the first flute, 70,000 years ago, and then in half that time we created the drum. The drum comes later because the drum takes more sophistication. You have to dry an animal hide, preserve an animal hide, find the right tree trunk, fasten the hide to the trunk, create the right tension. So there's more complexity. But once this was discovered, then humans began to create rhythm, and with rhythm introduces this effect in the brain of entrainment, because if I go ba boom boo, ba boo boo, ba, after a while you're gonna entrain to that. But if I then go ba ba boo ba boo ba ba boo ba ba, or any variation, any other rhythm, you're gonna entrain to the speed. Your heart rate is gonna go up or down. So the drum came in around probably the same time where we started to cook more meat. We started to take probably more substances. We were exploring a development in our consciousness, and so this drum amplified the polyrhythms. They helped almost, this is theory, is they helped us turn on the brain. Introduction of the drum, because every single culture has rhythmic elements and drum elements that go back very, very far. So with that said, there's a lot of talk about solfeggios and frequencies and Gregorians and monks and things. I'm going to fast forward here. And this is 14th, 15th century, so we didn't have electricity there. And so this idea, like these solfeggio frequencies we see, it's like these frequencies do these things. 417 undoes situations and creates change, or whatever the claim is, 528. And so, for years of looking at this and wanting to work with this, I was like, how do I make this make sense? And just to go back, we get to the Hertz measurement. Hertz is obviously named after an individual. Heinrich Hertz, which he actually discovered this in 1888, but the Germans coined the term in the 1920s after this gentleman. And he described these waves as invisible. So he produced these electrical disturbances in insulators. And he describes these waves as invisible waves. His experiments involved using a spark gap attached to an induction coil and a separate spark gap on a receiving antenna. And he noticed that the spark generated on one side created an electromagnetic wave that traveled through the room to the antenna. And that was in 1887. And then it was officially discovered in 1888 in his publishing. And then shortly thereafter, about 30 years later, they coined the term after him. So it wasn't even until the 1920s where we understood hertz as a unit of measurement. And it wasn't until 1752, about 100 years prior to the discovery of the hertz measurement, that we even had electricity to conduct tests and to measure such electronic phenomena. So the idea, I share this for the viewer, that the idea that anyone in the ancient world would have measured anything in hertz, I would dispute and debate that. A lot of the solfeggio stuff says these are ancient solfeggio frequencies. These are ancient Gregorian monk hymns. They're from the 14th century. But they literally didn't have electricity, and they didn't have the unit of measurement. And what Hertz measurement is it measures cycles per second. 1 cycle per second is 1 hertz. 2 cycles per second is 2 hertz. And it's a very basic unit of measurement that is used to measure many different types of waves. For example, we have the wave equation, we have Schrodinger's equation, we have Maxwell's equation. For example, the wave equation is a general wave equation which describes things like sound, light, and water. Schrodinger's equation is a quantum mechanics equation that describes the quantum state of a particle. Maxwell's equation is electromagnetic waves, and it governs the behavior of electric and magnetic fields. So on and so forth, right? So you have the relativistic quantum mechanics, you have frequency domain, you have nonlinear waves, you have quantum field theory. There's even an equation behind how fire crackles. And so to understand the behavior of a wave, I started to learn, I need to understand the equation and the medium, right? So for example, for sound follows the acoustic wave equation, which is the specific form of the general wave equation we mentioned, tailored for sound waves in fluid, like air or water. The acoustic wave equation describes how sound pressure, in summary, the acoustic wave equation describes how sound pressure varies over time in a medium, with the speed of sound being a key factor in how quickly these variations occur. So P propagates through a medium, where P is the sound pressure.
1 second, please.
Yep, yes.
Altitude then does affect the way
Correct.
the sound...
Correct, because altitude affects temperature.
Pressure.
And temperature and pressure, but specifically in the context of temperature, colder air at higher altitudes is more compact. Therefore, the medium is affected, and sound propagation through the medium is affected, versus lower to the ground, which is hotter, which sound travels more quickly through because the waves are more expanded. And it's the same with water. It's the same with water, even though water is a constant, just like air, generally speaking. It has variations between depths of water, and cold versus warm waters will affect how sound propagates.
Yes.
So this was important for me to start to understand that, okay, we're talking about frequencies like cosmic frequencies, the frequency of the sun, the earth, the moon, the pyramid, and the frequency of our cells, the frequency of this or that. But I said, why are people saying that music frequencies, solfeggio frequencies, are the heart or the organs, or how does that work? Because it's like you need sound to travel in a way and resonate with an object, whereas the organs are inside the body, and sound doesn't really penetrate unless it's bass, like low and bass vibration can go in the body but that's vibrating the whole body. So how do you isolate? The whole thing didn't make sense until I started to break it apart. And that leads me to the sound spectrum. So we hear between this middle audible range of 16 hertz, 16 cycles, up to 20,000. Anything below 16 is infrasound. You can't hear it, but you could feel it. And anything above is ultrasound. You can't hear it, and you can't feel it. Like a dog whistle. It goes so high that it's out of your range. And ultrasound is what's used in medicine, in cancer treatment, with tumors, to shatter a tumor. A lot of times people say sound can kill cancer and sound healing for this or for that, but they actually should specify if it's ultrasound versus sound. Sound is defined as that which we can hear by human ears. If you can't hear it, it's not sound. It's something else. There's another name for it. If it's above the hearing, it's ultrasound. If it's below the hearing, it's infrasound. So I think it's very important that we properly communicate what type of sound we're talking about. And when you go above ultrasound in the 10 megahertz range, you get into microwaves. And so this spectrum here, you can see bubbles formation, critical bubble size, bubble compression and expansion, bubble explosion. So this is demonstrating acoustic pressure and gas. This is how they actually are able to affect very subtle parts of the body and generate gas or heat, is using high frequency ultrasound to target very specific things. Now, that's not sound you could hear, right? So when we're talking about sound we can hear, it's like, how does that actually vibrate a chakra or do a thing to your organ if we find that we need ultrasound to focus on something like a cell? And so sound can affect organs. It just has to be felt sound, closer to this infrasound range, 16 to 45 to 50 hertz. That sound is felt in the body, and it could also be mechanically put into the body. I mention these things because we have the 40 hertz range. And Miguel, let me know if I'm jumping, if you have any questions or if I should slow down. You let me know.
Keep on going, please.
What we find with this 40 hertz is this. Not only do cats purr at 40 hertz, but an enlarged detail from a figure in this paper, this research paper, which is linked right here, highlights the reduction in phosphorylated tau magenta in primary somatosensory cortical neurons in P301S model mice treated with 40 hertz tactile simulation. So I read the report, and there was 3 groups of mice. The first group had no music, no vibration. The second group had only 40 hertz music, low tone 40 hertz, like this, really low. The third group had the 40 hertz music and the vibrating cage. The cage was vibrating at the same time, 40 hertz. Okay. The first group of mice, they died like normal mice. Their brain had degeneration. They got Alzheimer's. They lost balance, and they died normally. The second group maintained balance. The 40 hertz group maintained balance and still got mental stuff and slowed down, but that happened farther down the road. The third group that had the vibrating cage, this is what happened in their brain with the 40 hertz vibration. It turned on these neurons, and it reversed Alzheimer's. This was also conducted on human studies where they found the same. Separate from the effect on the brain of this 40 hertz wave on the brain by both hearing and feeling, there's other supporting information about 40 hertz that includes bone and muscle health. I've read articles that talk about how the muscles, they dance on the body at 40 hertz, so they shake, and that puts tension on your bones, and your bones get more dense. So they were going to consider sending cats purr at 40. It's 40 hertz constant, and they believe that cats developed this to heal their own bones. When they jump from height, they have damaged bones. They purr, so they kind of heal themselves, and when they're next to us, they heal our bones too. You could mimic this with just a 40 hertz vibration on the body. So this talks about the cats more. here. Now, with that said, I want to get to how we hear, which was a very important part of this presentation. This is a video demonstration separate from what I mentioned right now with 40 hertz and feeling it. This is how we just generally hear sound. And I'll play the animation and we'll go through it again twice. So first I'll show you the video. That entire process was faster than the human body processing light. It's light outside the body is faster than sound. It's not even comparable. But when a light photon hits your eye, it has to get absorbed through the eye, hit the back of the eye, and it gets processed at a rate slower than what you watched. And what you just watched is how an acoustic wave travels through air, which is the medium. It expands and compresses particles until it travels through the ear canal, eventually hitting the back of the ear, which is the eardrum. Those acoustic waves, which are energy contained within the air, compressing, expanding, gets converted when hitting the eardrum to a mechanical wave, which vibrates mechanically, hitting the first of three bones, the three smallest bones in your body that are in your ear. The first bone is called a hammer. The hammer sits upon the eardrum. The mechanical waves from the eardrum hits the hammer, which is then rested on the middle bone, the larger bone, the anvil. The anvil takes those mechanical waves, and it transfers that energy to the smallest bone, which is, I believe, called the stapes. That tiny one that looks like a little U-shaped tuning fork at the end. That is vibrating that vibration mechanically into the cochlea, which is like a jacuzzi, like a sack of fluid. Inside the cochlea is fluid, and the fluid at the bottom of that jacuzzi, we'll call it, are these hair nerves. These nerves, they do one thing. They detect frequency and amplitude, volume, of those vibrations. And depending on what kind of vibration's happening in that liquid, these hairs, the lower ones respond to lower pitch, the bigger ones respond to, inverse. The taller ones respond to lower frequencies and amplitudes. The shorter hairs respond to the higher. And based on how much they vibrate, how rigorously they vibrate, because if it's a lot of vibration, it's shaking a lot. If it's a little bit, it shakes a little bit. And exactly 1-to-1 correlation is a gate at the bottom where those vibrations open channels that release calcium and phosphorus. Calcium and phosphorus in exact proportions of each other in order to carry out this impulse, which is then converted at the bottom here into a glutamate. That glutamate contains the combination of those calcium, phosphorus minerals, chemicals, and it creates this biochemical that carries that information and is immediately converted into an electrical impulse. Now it's electrical. Now it's going through the nerves, up through the brain, into the central processing unit, where you then hear the sound. So the process of hearing sound is so quick, so instantaneous, and so remarkable that we barely can fully understand quite how phenomenal it is until we start to look into it. And as I just walked you through, it's absolutely, I mean, how do we do that for 10 voices at the same time when you're at Christmas party with 30 people or 100 people? You can differentiate their amplitude, frequency, range, angle. You can isolate voices. So imagine this happening times 100, and you can still hear your daughter's voice or your wife's voice. So this is a remarkable aspect of our human experience, is how we even are able to hear.
It is.
So, which gets me now to the solfeggios we got to this a little bit. But what is the solfeggio? Let's go back to that. So, with everything I just said, let's sit on that for a second. So what's up with this solfeggio thing then? Where did this come from? What is this? What even is a solfege? Solfege scale, also known as the solfa, solfeo, or solfeggio, is a naming system that assigns a syllable to each note in the scale. So basically it's like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. That's it. Whole tone chromatic scale. That is the scale created by this Italian monk. His name is Guido, an Italian monk who wanted a faster way to teach his new chants to the abbey choir. He named the notes of the scale using the first syllable of each line. Ut, re, mi, fa, so. And over time, the system evolved to do, re, mi, fa, so. So it's named after sol, la, right? Is how they get this solfege. It's from the name of a few of the notes. The solfeggio scale is a mnemonic used to teach oral skills, pitch, and sight reading of Western music. It helps musicians mentally hear the pitch of music, pieces of music. So if you can if you can teach someone where is middle C, and they go do, do, re, mi, fa, they can hit any octave and still find the note, because this technique entrains you to know where you start with C. Now, this somehow in this modern internet copy-paste culture has become something that's more mystical than it really is. This gentleman, he put out a series of books, and in it he says that these are mystical ancient frequencies that he has listed that are also found in the Bible. And the thing about it now that gets really compelling or interesting, if it's true, is and it does these things. So it's not just that he found these frequencies, or that now he's discovered what otherwise was just the regular sol, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la scale. Now someone is saying that each of these notes have these frequencies, so I can't be off by a little bit, even half of a hertz. If I'm off, I'm not healing. What if I'm singing at 393 hertz? Am I not removing my guilt anymore? So what is so special? So and then that led me to the 432 numbers as well. And these are the 432 numbers here. As you can see, 432. So this topic, I got to break this down. It takes a little bit of time and energy, but I'll try to do it in like 60 seconds. Long story short, there's two schools of thought, okay? One of them comes in and says, and both of these schools, they say these frequencies are healing, and these frequencies connect us with nature. But there's a difference in how they're saying it. Solfeggio side, because of this guy who wrote this book, he sold a lot of books, and now everyone uses these solfeggios, whether or not science has validated it or not, whether or not it's creative or it's a good tool to use or people have enjoyment using it, doesn't matter. You can go on YouTube and find millions of tracks with any of these frequencies, and people listen to them. So my thing is, why? What is it doing, and where is it doing it? Is it my brain, my gland, my organ, the chakra? Is it mental? Could we understand what's happening here? So what the solfeggio side claims is that these frequencies do these things. 432 side doesn't claim this. And it gets lumped in. They get lumped in together. But they're different. And the reason why they're different is this. Because you have A at 440. Here, I'll just quickly put this out. Right here. You have A at 440. You have A at 444, or you have A at 432. Our standard music puts A at 440. What I tune might to is what is this chart, 432, which is 8 hertz lower for all the notes. Everything drops down. And what this is A 444. So it's even sharper than 440. It's even higher. And that's because A can be between 415 around hertz to about 450 hertz. This is the general Goldilocks range, give or take a little bit, okay? And so where traditionally people have placed A, it could be anywhere in that range. So we've placed it at this 440 right here. That's really, really close to the higher threshold. And so is 444. It's right there. Whereas 432 is closer to the midway point between the two. And I find that 432, that's my experience with it. It's not too sharp. It makes anything that's... it just brings it to a perfect... wow, really clicks there. It really just resonates better. And I think it's because it's more properly placed in the Goldilocks zone for where you would place A. And so when I found this chart, I said, this is amazing, the most harmonic numbers and frequencies. And it was related to 432, obviously, because you can see it glaring at you. When you tune your A to 432 in equal temperament, you tune your C to 256, 512, not 528. 528 is 444A gets you to 528C. But 432 gets you to 512. Where else do you see 512? You see that with computer 256 megabytes, 512 mega. It's the binary. It's 248. It's the doubling of the twos. That's where you get C 512. That's the only way. And then what does it do to D? To D, it puts it at 72, 144. 72 is in acoustics and in physics, it's a very important number for angles and geometries. 144 angels, 144 is a biblical number, 144,000 years. 432 is the column of A, which is 108 mantra beats, 108 sun salutations, 108 prayers. Very spiritually significant number. So on and on and on, all these important spiritually significant numbers find themselves on the A 432 equal temperament system. And none of these numbers are on here. And the way this chart is created is very simple. 2's down, 3's across. Basic. Because it starts with 0, then 1. Right? So 1's in the corner. 1 goes down in doubles. 1 turns into 2, 4, 8, 16. After 2 is 3. Because 3's begin that inverse of, in vortex mathematics, the 3's, the 9's, it's the inverse energy, that the other part of the Merkaba that keeps the form intact. You have the form and you have the order and chaos. So 3 is the chaos energy. And you wouldn't obviously add a 4 because 4 is here, right? And 5 is, it's just, you're getting out of the pattern. The pattern is just the doubling quality, and then the third, number 3, which is the trinity, and begins the pattern of the chaos energy. So if you just, anywhere you multiply those two, you get these most harmonic numbers. And this happens to be equal temperament 432 numbers. It's the same frequencies that you find in equal temperament 432. So I find that interesting. And when people come across this information and they see these patterns, they say, wow, like, what does that mean? And even the solfeggio, they see this and they go, wow, I see some of these numbers in the Bible or in geometry or in some other field. What does it mean? And they try to connect it all. Like there's some kind of connection there. And the reason why there is significance, which is another compelling and interesting thing about this, is we have to go back to how we even count. The Sumerian sexagesimal system uses one hand to count. Each knuckle has 3 digits. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So your left hand is the counting hand, and the right hand is your storing hand, where you do the storage. So you count 3, 6, 9, 12. 12, 24, 36, 48, 60. So on one hand, I can count to 60. This is how the Sumerians discovered sexagesimal counting. They didn't use 10s, they used 12s. And when you get 60, you get 120, 180, 360, 360 degrees. So our counting systems of 360 degrees, of 60 seconds in a day, 60 minutes. Some people say, why are these important? They're arbitrary. No, they're not. They're actually what we've used since this period or longer. And and it's worked ever since. So everything has been counted off of and built off of this very similar system of numbers. Now, this is from a movie called Sonic Geometry, and he tries to explain why that's important. And so he takes that number 144 that we talked about, and he puts it in here, and he does a Fibonacci thing with it, where he doubles it, it gets 288 harmonic. He doubles that, he gets 432, or that plus that gets 432, and then 432 plus 288 gets you 720. 720 plus 432 gets you 1152, and then he draws a Fibonacci spiral through the sequence. And so he said, if we take this golden ratio 1.61 and we square it by itself, by the way, the next number here, 1152, becomes this number, 2.592.
2592.
And so he says, if you take the golden ratio 1.61 and you square it by itself times itself, you get 2592. What's that? That's the exact precession of the equinoxes, which is the longest cycle of the human cycle. It's Earth's axis. It takes the Earth's axis 26,000 years to complete the circular wobble called the precession of the equinoxes, axial precession. The Earth's axis helps determine the North Star, and axial precession helps it change it. There currently, for instance, Earth's axis points towards a star called Polaris. So that changes every 26,000 years.
So that's a change of an era.
It's a change of an era, and it's the longest era that we measure, which is this precession of the equinoxes, and that is the amount of years, and that is the same number as the golden ratio squared by itself, which then fits into this Fibonacci number, which then is a derivative of the most harmonic numbers and frequencies, in which all these numbers are also found exclusively only on this chart, which is not either A440 or A444, also known as C528, also known as solfeggio frequencies. So for me, I've isolated and focused on this chart. This to me is a compelling chart. I still don't from there say like, this is a miracle, you know, it solves cancer, it solves everything. But it's a direction to move towards for me. Now, what else is there here that we can go through? Oscilloscope. Regardless of the medium, regardless of sound traveling through air or water, an oscilloscope is a device that shows electrical signals as wavy lines on a screen. It helps us see things like sound waves, heartbeats, electrical currents, how they change over time. Engineers and scientists use these to measure and study different types of waves and signals to understand how they behave. So it gives you an understanding, but it's not like the same as cymatics, like where you're going to now take the same frequency and put it into water and you're going to get the same exact shape. Because an oscilloscope is using, because there's factors, right? There's the medium, there's the amplitude, there's the size of the sand, there's the size of the plate. All of these variables will change how a cymatics experiment reveals a final output. And that's one thing I learned as well. I was like, wait, so you're saying, because everyone's so excited to say, here's the frequency of a 12-petal flower. Look, the frequency does that. But you could get the 12-petal flower with a different frequency at a lot higher amplitude, or by playing two frequencies that create a similar set of circumstances to then create a 12. So to just see a shape and to say, look, that shape is this sound is inaccurate. There's more going on there. And so my girlfriend, actually, I'm lucky enough, thank you to the heavens, I've found a partner who's into the same things as me, and her field of study is frequency, harmonics. These are her oscilloscope research programs images here and videos. She's lecturing right now in New Mexico on the topic. And what we find is that these harmonics, they totally can emerge from wave interaction and through ratios. It's not so much about the frequency, it's about the ratio. So you can take any frequency, but as long as they have these ratios, these relationships, they will create those shapes. So whether it's like 50 hertz and 100 hertz, or whether it's 200 hertz and 400 hertz, the ratio of half is still the same. Therefore, the oscilloscope would show pretty much the same pattern. So it's more about learning how all of these variables can come together across different mediums to demonstrate and show us how waves propagate and what types of waves propagate differently or the same. And so here's some of her visuals of what she's starting to do with frequencies and the oscilloscope. So it's a really cool study, and she's teaching me a lot too about how these waves interact, how to create these crop circles and these patterns, you know, and why they emerge. We're learning a lot actually at this time. So all form is, it's to be understood that all shapes and forms are occurring on account of waves interacting with each other, whether they're acoustic waves, electromagnetic waves, gravity waves. At the core of reality is a vibrational state of things. Quantum physics shows us that particles behave as waves, behave as particles. And the oscilloscope and these patterns are a way to understand mathematic relationships and ratios, like Pythagoras would have discussed, how that translates to, you know, consistent patterns. Moving on here, and in a minute I will take a break, and then you can ask any questions. I can get into any of this stuff a little bit more nuanced, but I'm just kind of going through it. Let's go here. How noise hurts. So sound can actually do many things for us. It can relax the nerves. It can stimulate the vagus nerve, which is the central nervous system hub for all the other nerves. You can get there. You can actually mitigate a lot of other pain and inflammation. It helps harmonize the brain. It helps bring the brain into a place of coherence where the brain waves get regulated and they get more consistent and smoothed. It also turns on the brain. Turns on the when you listen to music, the left brain shuts down, the right brain opens up, receptive. And in doing so, the whole brain opens up. So it turns on the brain. It makes the brain waves more coherent. It also has an effect on our mood. It helps us release dopamine, serotonin. It helps us also lower cortisol, especially very relaxing music designed functionally. Helps lower and reduce cortisol drastically. After 10, 20 minutes, your body is ridding itself of these stress chemicals, which can help with everything from getting your period back on to the biochemistry and the impact that the biochemistry has on your nervous system, immune system, natural functions, sleep, digestion. All of the systems are connected, and when you are in a stressful environment, stressful circumstance, when with high cortisol, your body is constantly inadequate and not ridding itself properly of unwanted toxins or disturbances. So to support that, we need to be in a rested, relaxed state, in which even cancer patients, they tell them, the more calm you are, the better, because your body thrives in a regenerative way when we're calm. The inverse is true. Noise. Transportation noise creates a stress response. The blood vessel lining is altered. And that leads to obesity, coronary artery disease, hypertension, arrhythmia, diabetes, heart failure. Transportation noise, you have a car, a train, a bus, a plane. That includes a jackhammer. That includes the train's lights, bing, bing, bing. Every sound going on around you in society is building up, bioaccumulating stress in the body, which is why being in nature is very important. Or having noise canceling, very important. I have a noise canceling headphone. It cancels out all the unwanted sound and also has a mic so I could pick up, if I need to, what's happening around me. So there's new technologies like this. And we have to protect our hearing because, as I showed in the video earlier, those little hairs, you lose those hairs, you don't ever get them back. And so what this is here to demonstrate is that we actually are negatively impacted by civic sounds, by sounds of the city. Especially a city with millions of people, and being out and about around a lot of helicopters, jets, next to a noisy environment with a lot of construction. You have to do extra work to mitigate that, which is why the work you're doing, with sound and frequencies, same with me, is very important, because it is literally the antidote. It's the medication for this ailment, this series of ailments that arise from stress. The things I mentioned are just a couple things that it helps with. There's many, many, many more things we're finding every year, it seems like, in which sounds help us. But that is, in a nutshell, my presentation, Miguel. I'll come back to the stream now.
Amazing. I loved your presentation, and
Thank you.
Congratulate you for doing it.
Thank you so much.
Really, really well versed, and you seem well versed on this theme. And I want to ask you a personal question. Do you think the brain actually thinks, or it depends on the frequency that it is in order to receive those thoughts?
It's a great question. Let's look at a computer. A computer can process information on the computer natively, but it can also receive information through Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. And it could also send information locally through the local area network, but it could also send information through the wireless Wi-Fi. So I think what we've done with computers is, like, actually, if you look at it, is a really, really natural and interesting way of reconstructing input-output signal processing, and how, in fact, that might reflect exactly what's going on with us in a multidimensional way. I think we are processing units. We process things. We assess things. You said you have a child. You have a daughter or son, or both?
Yes, I do.
When you're crossing the street with your child, what's the first thing you think about? Without even having to think about it. You're not necessarily waiting for that information to come to you to be like, oh, I have to have safety. The second you're in the circumstance, you've already processed based on your own assessments, your own internal local scenario. You have to be able to think and act quick. Someone is coming at you with something, and you have to have a reaction. Yeah. So there's a reason why we process locally. And we do process locally, because if you're upset in the room, someone else feels it. Like, man, that guy's vibe is coming on to me. So our local field is affected by us, and our disposition.
Electromagnetic?
We're learning. But yes, electromagnetic in the standpoint that the heart and the brain are electromagnetic emitters, and the heart field, Greg Braden, heart math, he says the heart field is 30 feet more, the brain field is more smaller than that, but they're connected, because if you're having a brain negativity, you're letting it affect your heart, and your emotions are involved. Now you're amplifying, which is why it's important to have your head right, so you don't let the head go to the wrong emotions, because the emotions are the amplifier. So the emotions are the amplification, the thoughts are the assessment and logic and reasoning, and then beyond that is the consciousness, which is why there's mystery schools. What we seek to learn about, what spiritual pursuit is are we more than the material? And that brings up, this quantum theory, quantum physics part of the mind is, are we just central processing units that think and act and rationalize, or are we also simultaneously connected to a collective that is able to influence and impact how we think? Do we have psychic telepathy? Can we communicate with the past, present, future? People who have passed on, are we able to receive information from other dimensions, other planets, other worlds? Can we communicate non-locally with a human across the world? These things, from a quantum physics standpoint, seem to become more and more validated as we find that the fundamental nature of particles and waves is not Newtonian by any means. It has superposition and quantum entanglement and other qualities that opens up the possibility that perhaps this thing consciousness, similarly, which we can't quite pin down or figure out, is at the core of our spiritual experience, is a part of our manifest physical form, and behaves and acts similar to other waves and how waves propagate, but not similar in any other material thing we can measure, clearly, because we would have understood it by now. And I try to check every quarter, are there any updates? And it's all still leading hypothesis on where we might find consciousness. It's this thing. But people die, and they're aware, and they come back, and they were fully present. And this happens over and over and over. People take crazy amounts of an ayahuasca medicine, and they literally almost pretty much, they have a death, and they see their body leave, but they're fully present, fully aware, and they come back with information. And so I have had these experiences myself. I've received, and I've seen things that doesn't make sense, and I come back, I'm like, wow, I totally saw that, or it came to me, it clicked. So I think you and our listeners all know deep down there's something deeper going on with our life, our purpose, why we're here at this time. And I think why we're pursuing these things is to try to pin down the mechanics, the mechanisms, and maybe help us learn how to navigate what is otherwise a very confusing and three-dimensional reality that has more going on to it. It's more than the three dimensions. We can access higher dimensions of thought, of being.
Okay. That being said, I want to know, and I have made these questions several times, but yours is going to be quite special. Who is God? What is God for you?
I'm born Armenian, Orthodox, first Christians, baptized. Okay. Not overly religious, but Orthodox, 1700 years of Orthodoxy. It's very strong origins.
Yes.
So I respect religions. I respect my church. I respect, Jesus as a figure, as a character, as an energy, as a person. I feel like the second I myself make a claim about who is or isn't God, it's almost a mistake to do that because it's so hard of a thing to do. And so I try to know God, and I try to know God through inquiry, through going within, opening a dialogue, communicating, opening my eyes, seeing God, opening my ears, hearing God, opening my heart, feeling God through interacting with other people, feeling God through interacting with my lover, feeling God through my music, my creation. And so I let my relationship come to me. Now, is it a spaghetti monster? Is it a scientist with a clipboard looking down at the universe going, oh, we made a really good simulation this time, let's restart? Is it a group of aliens that are like, let's create a simulation of our own world so if we die, I don't know. But the simulation theory has become more prominent, and people very, very, high up there thinking scientists say, we're building AI and we're turning this thing on, and it may well be that it's already been made, and it's a natural cycle, and it's cyclically creating itself. But regardless of whatever theories we have, someone greater than anything we can even fathom had to come at the start, had to have this impulse. Like when you wake up, you have an impulse, I have to use the bathroom. I have an impulse, when you're with your partner, we have an impulse to just, our bodies just connect. And when you're with your kid, I have an impulse to just squeeze my kid and kiss. We have this natural impulse, and I think God at its core is an impulse. It's a strong primordial energy. It's Shiva going Om in the universe. It's an action. And I can't explain much more than that, other than it helps me understand the purpose of life is to be with that, to be a creator, to be in action, to be dynamic and moving and creating and evolving and expanding. I think that's how we live a life. We continue where it started, which is an impulse. I think the way to not live the life is to live a stagnant life. We play it safe, where you... maybe next time I'll do better or something, where you put it off. I think we have to have motion, and that makes us feel good. It makes us feel reward. So I think when we do the right things, we experience godliness. When we're making moves happen in our life and moving energy and helping be in service and coming to a greater awareness, we feel good, and we're a part of fulfilling what seems to be the right action. I feel like God is right. It's choosing rightly. It's choosing to be with it, with natural impulse. What that is, I can't put a skin on it yet. I can't say what the name is.
So, what do you think? We know the purpose of the bees or the spiders, or no? What do you think the purpose of a human being is? If it's to get to that frequency. What's the
to be
purpose of a
the purpose of
frequency?
the purpose of a human being for me
Yeah.
is to be a human being. Just being. And the hardest thing for a human to do is to just be. It's the hardest thing.
Mm-hmm.
You put 10 humans in a room. Oh, I have a Lamborghini. How about you? Oh, my wife just got this. Oh, my kid's at this school. Everyone is all... It's so easy to not just be. Everyone is racing to not be. Because being is not... It's not thought. It's, oh, someone's chair moved. Oh, let me just help them with the chair. Oh, it's tribal. It's just having a role. It's like being an emergent, creative, dynamic force, right? Like want to make people laugh. You're with them. It's a little sad. You start tap dancing. You didn't think, and everyone's laughing, and now the joy goes up. When we're in our natural state is where we could just be. Most people will never experience this because most people go, my name is Torcom G. I am Miguel. I have a career. I have to pay bills. And we're so locked into what we think we are. We're so locked into identity, ego, separateness. What is my purpose to find for my soul and my spirit? It's the same as everybody, man. We're all here. We don't know any idea how or why we got here. We're born. We're thrown into this thing. We're beaten up, walked over, stomped over, trampled. Sometimes not. Other times more. And we're still expected to wake up every day, stay positive, and keep discovering what this thing is. I mean, no one knows. So the best we got is to stop everything. Stop the madness. Stop the madness. The best we got is to stop, close the eyes, breathe, and just say, I'm nothing. I'm everything. I'm nothing. I'm all of it. I'm none of it. And that simple reminder, like on, off, I'm high, I'm low, I'm grounded, I'm elevated. This between the extremes is where we find a truth. Between the extremes, we find the middle. So if there's too much, we're out of our mind, we're out of our head, we're not being, find silence. Go in, let your inner self become louder, and then you can be a human being. You can be something. When you can get to that point where just simply being is enough, who you are is enough, who you are gives to people, it gives so much joy, it gives so much gifts, just who you are, I think you've succeeded. I think that's a success. I think that's what we're here to find, is how to be the best, at what we're here to be naturally. And everyone has that. It's a seed. You come with it. It's like you plant a seed, it grows into a huge tree. All of that data is in a little tiny seed. You come here. I know you did, Miguel. I know I did. I know your listeners, even if they don't fully know it, they know that there's something they feel like they're working towards spiritually unfolding in this life. It's because we came with that impulse. And so the more we can be, the more we can be anti-stress, the more we can hear what that is, feel that, and then we can bring it in like heaven, bring it into earth, share it with the world. That's more than most. That's already success, if you ask me, is discover that in you, bring it out, change the world.
I resonate with you, with your words. I would say that we all live in Mother Earth, right? And everything is nature. We come from whatever, we're born here. No, it doesn't matter where we come from. We are here. So to be one, like you said, with everything, that's going to be part of the evolution, of course.
Yeah, I mean, it's to
resonate with everything that's around you, no, or nature.
Yes,
you are.
But to still, completely. But to still also within that be an individual, right? Be a little like, it's the perfect marriage of you're a unique, one of a kind, your DNA.
Listen,
but
AI,
but it's not about just you. It's about how everyone is
No.
like that, and we're here together, experiencing
Yes.
that as one. So
Yes.
so it's once again, it's like it's both a little bit. Sorry, go ahead. You're gonna ask me about AI.
No. It's like, AI has a lot of knowledge, but it has these lots of computers. Everything is connected. What's it called in English? Hold on. The common conscience, if you say it, you can say it.
The collective collective consciousness.
Collective consciousness. Yes, collective consciousness, and that's a thing which you can plug in sometimes. So it would be amazing if we could do this, and it would outperform by far anything known. Like the brain, no? Or
do we join the machine or not? Elon Musk says if we don't put the chip in our brain, then we're going to be at odds with it. It's going to get advanced outside of us. We have to merge with it. We have to merge with it sooner than later so we could develop a synergy and grow together. And he talks about this.
It's going to be done.
It is, but the thing is, if each of us is in the other, would you really want to kill yourself? Would the machine want to kill us if we're like, hey, we're both working in the same unit, or would we want to kill ourselves? So this idea that for us to survive, we have to come together with this AI and leverage what could be potential. Now, I think we've gone too far. I think shut it off. Let's just shut it off. Let's go back 300 years. I'm okay with a straw hut. We'll go fishing. We'll make traps. Make 10 babies each. I don't know, but let's start over, because I don't quite think we're building the best version of the future we want for ourselves. I think it potentially could be, something that
depends who is doing it, right? Who has the switch?
It has to be decentral. If everything's too central, then there's no chance for opportunities and choices. So for humans to live naturally, we have to be granted the ability to make our own autonomous choices and to live more locally, where local matters more than global or national. Everyone wants to make it national and global. That's too much. How about I just worry about my block? Can I just worry about my 5 kilometers around my house, or 10 kilometers? Could we just be a tribe, and focus our resources? So, and obviously,
but we have to have what's the goal of a human being? What's of humanity? Don't relate to a human being, because we all live here. So humanity is a species, no? Like an ants colony. They all work together towards protecting the survival of the
You're
species.
Talking about collectivism.
Yes.
Collectivism is potentially misused with globalism, because now you have countries that unify and say, now all you countries have to follow these laws, UN laws. And it's like, wait, we live half the way across the world. Why are you making laws for us? Oh, because we're globalists and we care about the environment all of a sudden. So a lot of corrupt, negative, undesirable policies comes through this idea of selling the citizens that kumbaya, become one big tribe, one global thing. It's easier to control. So I think I'm the opposite. I think, yes, I want what you want too. Let's break it down. I'm not saying anarchy. I'm just saying let's break down what's become this huge emphasized top-down hierarchy, and let's bring it to a more, because I trust you, Miguel. I trust you to protect your family and your neighbor. And I want to be able to trust more of my neighbors to protect me, and I'll protect that. If we worry more about each other instead of the TV, or people we don't even know in real life. So this is a part of the illusion. We're living in an illusion, and the illusion's coming down right now. The illusion's starting to come down with the internet, with more media, with just people wanting to have a living, have a better life. They're seeing what's wrong, and people are starting to wake up. It's happening very quickly. It's happening as we speak. And so, we're living at this transition period, but we'll see where it goes. But I genuinely think it's happening because people want something more, and they understand that the world is not in a very healthy situation. And it's mostly because we're not living in accordance with nature. We're not living connected to nature. Exactly. We're not even living connected to each other. And so I make my music, and I have been for years, to drop people in so they can get information, get intuition, reconnect with their body, go out to the world and think a little bit different about themselves and what's possible. And that's my part in this life, is to help people open up what's possible. If we don't think about what's possible anymore in a positive way, we could be doomed. We have to maintain this idea that tomorrow could still be better. Because right now, it's like, looking at the last 5-6 years, it's like, tomorrow's going to be worse than today. And next year's going to be worse than last year. Yeah. And we have to flip it again, where we're saying, no, now we flipped it. Now next year, I can't wait till next year is 10 times better, because we're building new trains, we're building flying cars, we have agriculture and permaculture on every corner with crops and food, and now we've shifted our, the momentum of what is serving the people and what works functionally for the benefit of mankind, and we're moving in that direction. Now we could say every year we're looking up, but right now we're kind of in the, and so I yeah, it's all illusions, it's illusions. Everyone has the power at any moment. Go into the silence, and you don't need anything from outside, and your life has the meaning it has always had. And that's part of my message of subtraction. Is when we subtract, instead of add, when we subtract, what we need is there. It's already waiting.
What could happen if there was a goal, how to act to preserve humanity? Well, there is. If you act in virtues, or virtues which are the highest truth, if everybody would act that way, we could guarantee the perseverance of the species, and the best of that would happen, no? Getting better each day.
Yeah. You go to a party, 50 people. They each produce 3 pieces of trash. But at the party you say, hey everyone, thanks for coming. If each of you could just pick up 4 pieces of trash, just 4 pieces, I would be so happy. And you don't have to do it right now. Just throughout the night, count 4 pieces of trash, throw it away. Each of them makes 3 pieces. Each of them throws away 4 pieces of trash. That's not a big deal. Guess what? Now you don't have to have 4 or 5 people at the end picking up 60 pieces of trash each, which no one wants to do. Why should I pick up all the trash for these people? Well, if we had a different way we flowed through things, a common respect, I think Japan is like this as a culture. Like I was reading, when you sneeze, you don't sneeze by people. When you have trash, you deal with it this way. You deal with it this way, that way. And there's all these considerations, so it's not a burden on the society. And I don't know if that works everywhere the same way, but I think a lot of people have checked out, where they feel like it's all me, it's all about me and my family, and forget everyone else. And that's not healthy either. So we have to find a balance where we could both, be there for each other and support each other, and think about in terms of a society, but also respect that, hey, I have my fence and my personal life and goals, and I'm not going to come in your house and eat food from your fridge. You're not going to do that to me, but I am going to help you move, or put up your fence, or paint your wall. And so there's a right way that I think we can be open to supporting each other without feeling like we have to open our door to, everyone who wants to come and sleep on my floor. Like that's too extreme. We don't have to necessarily give everything we have to everyone else, but we could do better. And to do that, we have to shake out of the illusion that keeps us separate, that says, don't talk to strangers, don't trust random people, we've been put into a fear response where we can't trust anyone and anything anymore. And that's not healthy. So first we have to get healthy with our own mind, and then we can get healthy with each other and how to build, and then we can put solutions forth. But while we're kept separated and in the mind, and I'm sure many people, they resonate with this, like, how am I going to pay bills? Like, how am I going to even afford that next thing? Like, I lost my job, or something got canceled, or they want, it's more money than I expect. There's so much life stuff happening to people that takes them out of being, it's very easy to just get fear. So we have to stay not fearful. Even in the most challenging, you stay not fearful. You actually attract the right solutions to you countless times. It happens all the time. You just have to get relaxed. Say, I know there's a solution coming. I know I'm covered. I just have to breathe, make it through. How many times does that work for everyone listening? You really think all those problems, they destroyed you? No, you're still here. You make it through every single one of them all the time. Yeah. Always works out.
You know what you said about the chip thing? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that I told you that either you want it or not, it's going to be done?
Yeah.
Well, about 3 months' time, I heard or I read a news from the University of Zurich, I think it was, that they found a way to tap in an interface to the human body.
Mm-hmm.
So, that being said, I think it's not a matter if you want it or not to get a chip. You're going to get it anyway.
You can get a flip cell phone. You don't need an iPhone today. You can get a flip phone. And a lot of people are getting flip phones, but not the masses. And how about your grandma? Your grandma has an iPhone now, and she swipes to open her phone. Did you ever think you would see a grandmother is swiping to open her phone, unlock her phone? Or recording a video and sending an iMessage with an emoji? My grandma can do that. Like, and it's probably likely that your grandma will get a brain chip. When it becomes so normal that everyone has a Facebook, everyone has an iPhone, everyone has Wi-Fi. 15 years ago, no one had an iPhone. Not everyone had Wi-Fi. People didn't know what an emoji was 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. So the rate at which we adopt technology, especially technology that we're at first weary of and not so trust, and then we adopt it, is a little alarming. Yeah, I think about this all the time.
I think it's time for you to show me that video. I would love to see it.
Sure.
Please.
Here's a video of me performing. Actually, hold on one second.
Yep. There's a question. It says, Sarah, I have a question about this theme. When you are in a place where it's so quiet, for example, a forest, and it suddenly changes the weather, and there are some movements and new sounds, can you mix these sounds and transform them in a melody with a special instrument that is not precise in that precise moment? I do not understand that question.
I think I kind of get this question. So okay. I was just at an event on Saturday. I performed, and a ambulance went by.
Okay.
I had a sound already going that was like, I already had it, and I was getting ready to bring it. And as it came, I said, let me just bring it faster. And I matched the siren. The sounds came like this. And as the ambulance went away, I'm still going. I bring mine down. I don't let that control my session. I meet it. I take the momentum and I bring it down. And everyone went, what was that? What? Like they don't. So there's been times where there's a helicopter. And I bring in my white noise. And I match the helicopter. And the helicopter goes away. And I go. I unwind it. So you can play, if you have the right sounds, the right instruments, the right tunes, you can work with the environment. You know, if there's something that's loud and like a jackhammer, you could at least do something to make it a part of a music, a part of something musical that makes it less damaging. It changes the context because you're not like attacked by it. Now it's like creative. It's like a part of it, and that changes the way we experience it. So I've been doing this for 12 years. I've been performing all environments where I have to work with the sounds around me, and sometimes those are very loud, helicopters or police ambulances, sirens. So but yes, and another aspect to answer her question is that the indigenous and ancient people played to their environment. They played to the valley they were in. They played to the cave they were in, the size of the cave. They tuned an instrument or a drum to the size of the cave, the height of the cave. So they were very tapped in, very connected to environment. And the environment is the extra part, the other half of the instrument. is the environment. It's a part of the instrument. Yeah.
I'm going to show you something which I guess you are going to love after your presentation. See this?
Uh-huh.
This is an Olmec. Olmec? Have you heard of Olmecs?
Olmec, yeah, with the big heads.
Instrument, yes. It's a whistle.
Wow.
Yes. Wow.
I want to hear it.
I got it from an archaeologist. It sounds a very super high pitch.
Well, it sounds amazing.
It does. Put it there.
Maybe you'll show me this in a bit. I'm very interested. Here is me at a festival. Let me see. So I lie people down, you know, they get comfortable, they close their eyes. This is my device. It's called the Korg Electroid.
You have to unmute it if you want us to hear it.
Those overtones in the music. I emphasize overtones very much. Overtones are found in the sound waves. They're the harmonics. I let them emerge and come out, mathematics within the sound. This is just kind of an environment shot of where I typically play. Here's another shot of me. Actually, it'll be a better shot of my devices. So these filters, there's modulations, there's resonance, there's different effects on my synthesizers that are typical, and those allow me to shape and move the sounds and to layer the harmonics. Everything is tuned to 432 hertz, and I do everything live. So I'm meditating and I'm letting it reflect, you know, my state of being. Fast forward to just another section here. And I have prepared like a 10-minute little stream of some of my sounds that we can play in a bit. But here's an example of some white noise. White noise has all harmonics in it, but I found a way to tune and shape it, like you're hearing now with the harmonics, the whistling. little mishap. But yeah, this is just a little bit of my performance on YouTube. I'll be more than happy to make this link available. Actually, anyone who searches this Sound Bath Live presents Torkumji can tune in on YouTube and hear it. Welcome back, Miguel and everybody. That's just a little YouTube clip of me in the action and some of my singing with it. You're still muted, Miguel.
Amazing, I loved it. And while you were playing it, we should do something together, because while you were playing these frequencies, music, I played my own one, which I thought would resonate with that one. You'll like that, really.
Yes, it's a mathematics. It's a universal language, and when we tap into this kind of soundscape, which is a really exciting way to make music, of course, when we speak the similar language, it creates whole new possibilities. So, absolutely, yeah, I would love to do that. And every time I'm on it, it's a new design, it's a new approach, and little tiny things, like how the sound opens or closes can change what you bring to it. So there's so many little variables there.
I want to show the audience about your Solodome webpage.
Sure.
And please explain a bit about it.
So I started working with this company, Solodome. I've been testing and working with hardware products for sound delivery for about a decade. I've worked with a company called Subpack that has vibrational vests and chairs you sit on. It's more of like a pad that vibrates the mechanical waves into the body, the bass. I've designed for Opus, which is a sound bed. And recently I've just met the gentleman at Solodome. They actually they work 5 minutes down the street from where I live. And we've become good friends. I'm coming on board to be an ambassador and a designer for this chair. But this chair, which everyone today, if they use the code QH10, there's a 10% off. And they do ship around the world. This chair is honestly the best acoustic playback device I've heard. It's Bluetooth as well as wired. You can connect it to your studio. You can put it in your room, and you just plug in the power. And when you sit into it, you hit play on a piece of music, and it cancels the sound. The shape of the chair is noise canceling, so there's no interference with outside sound. And then the speakers are positioned with a digital spatial array to basically give you perfect high quality sound delivery with a subwoofer beneath vibrating. So instead of lying on a sound bed or feeling the vibrations on the body, you're actually climbing into the cave. You're like sitting inside of it, and the sound surrounds you like a sphere. So I have put in my music that I've heard for years, and listening it in this is like, wow, that's totally different. Amazing. You can hear it very clear, very clean, no disturbance. And of course, the way it vibrates is a sphere. So you're inside of a sphere of sound. It's my pleasure to work with them. I look forward to doing more, and I'm very happy to present, a coupon or a discount for anyone who is interested. And I highly recommend, if you're ever in Los Angeles, you can reach out, and we have a few at my studio. So
that looks amazing. They are very, very appealing to the eye.
It's based on the golden mean, the shape of it. So the back of the egg, the back of it, which is also a primordial shape. It's the cosmic egg. It's the womb. When you climb in it, you feel a safety of like the womb being in a cave. It's autistic kids like it because it provides a comfort, a safety. It's perfect for working. You put your laptop in there, Bluetooth. It's basically like a private little cubicle. And also virtual reality with Bluetooth. You put your VR headset and you can watch something while you're inside of the sound. So virtual reality is amazing too. But yeah, it's designed so the back, it's, if you follow the golden mean spiral, the front of the outside of it is proportionate to the back. And so there's a spiral from the back towards the front. And that geometry is what really serves the acoustics as well. It helps, like I said, noise cancel very effectively. You can barely hear anything outside of it.
It looks amazing. I want to try it by a lot. Torcom, since we are on video right now, there's lots of people which are going to be listening to it through podcasts. So if you could please share with us your your handle on Instagram?
Yes, people can check me out on Instagram at Torkomji, Torkomji. You can find my link tree in my bio. It has all my upcoming events. It has some SoundCloud private links, articles on sound therapy, some products. And so, yeah, feel free to reach out, send me a personal message. And also, if you want to send me an email, it's quantumharmonicsla@gmail.com, quantumharmonics with an X, la@gmail.com. I'd be more than happy to, be responsive to anybody and help them along their way.
Thank you. Torkom is your real name?
Torkom is my middle name, my grandfather's name. It's an old Armenian name. My first name is Daniel. Torgom is the Armenian patriarch's father. He had 9 sons. He's one of the great grandchildren from Noah's Ark. Okay. So he represents like a patriarch of some of the people of the Caucasus area, the Armenians and things. So it's a name that usually priests have, or people like this, very old school people.
Thank you. Well, Torkom, it has been a pleasure. Thank you for giving us this lecture about frequencies. I really appreciate your time, and the information you gave us is priceless. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Miguel, thank you so much for having me. I really had a great time chatting with you, and I hope your listeners got some nice little gems and value, and they enjoyed the meditation. And so feel free to, you can tune into this YouTube video, Sound Bath Live, featuring myself. And I look forward to collaborating with you again on all kinds of amazing things. Thank you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Okay.
Well, see you then.
See you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Hola. ¿Quieres descubrir algo que podría transformar tu vida? Bienvenidos a Despierta.online, tu nuevo espacio para el bienestar emocional y mental. En el mundo acelerado de hoy, cuidar tu mente es tan importante como cuidar tu cuerpo. Y ahí es donde entramos nosotros. Ofrecemos terapias transformadoras para ayudarte a sanar y crecer. Imagínate sumergiéndote en la terapia de música medicina. ¿O prefieres sesiones de meditación y atención plena? También ofrecemos terapias individuales y grupales. Entonces, ¿qué puedes obtener? Reducir el estrés y la ansiedad y recuperar el equilibrio. Imagínate con una mejor salud emocional. Estas terapias promueven el crecimiento personal. Escucha a María, que dijo: Despierta Online me ayudó a recuperar mi alegría y confianza. Visita Despierta Online hoy y comienza tu viaje hacia un tú más saludable y feliz. No esperes más, tu bienestar está a un clic de distancia.
Despierta tu conciencia. Exploremos cómo comprometernos con nuestra conciencia para experimentar una transformación interior y vivir una vida más plena y consciente. El compromiso con la conciencia comienza viviendo en el presente. Deja de lado las preocupaciones del pasado y las ansiedades del futuro. Enfócate en el aquí y ahora y descubre la belleza y la conexión en cada momento. El desarrollo personal y espiritual es esencial en este camino. Dedica tiempo a conocerte a ti mismo, descubre tus valores, creencias y nutre tu crecimiento interior a través de prácticas como la meditación y la reflexión. Despertarás tu conciencia y experimentarás una transformación profunda. El compromiso con la conciencia no se detiene en nosotros mismos. También implica conectarnos con nuestro entorno y con los demás. Cuidemos y respetemos a la naturaleza. Establezcamos relaciones significativas. Practiquemos la empatía y la compasión. Juntos, podemos construir un mundo más consciente y equilibrado. Únete a nuestra comunidad en Despierta. Participa en nuestros programas en vivo, donde descubrirás enseñanzas inspiradoras, técnicas de meditación y conversaciones reveladoras. Síguenos en nuestras redes sociales para obtener contenido adicional y ser parte de nuestro movimiento de despertar de la conciencia. El compromiso con la conciencia es un viaje personal, pero juntos podemos construir una comunidad consciente y transformadora. Es hora de despertar tu conciencia y marcar la diferencia en tu vida y en el mundo. Despierta tu conciencia y únete a nosotros en este emocionante viaje de transformación.